look, I know. I have some explaining to do. I kind of want to give like a little bit of a tiny bit of a backstory as to kind of like what happened. So this was my second or my third break from YouTube in the only 2 short years since I started doing it. Which you're probably like, man, that's a lot of breaks for somebody who just started doing this. But I think that there's a certain challenge to doing this and like content creation and that whole thing. There's a certain expectation from the platform, from YouTube, and there's a certain expectation that comes from your I guess your audience, your people who watch, right? And even though I don't even consider it an audience. I have just under 600 subscribers on here. It kind of like it messes with you a little bit, just doing this whole thing. And I really found myself at a place where I wasn't happy with what I was putting out per se. I was happy to be a part of it. I was happy to be covering the things I was doing with like the Severance showcase and inside the mind of Coffin Joe. I was really happy about that, but it just wasn't as happy with the format and kind of like what I was putting out. I felt like it wasn't truly me, and at the same time I was kind of like having a little bit of an identity crisis with who I was on here, because I want to be me. I don't want to be anybody else. I want to be me, and I want to do this my way. And that's kind of what this is. Like this new thing that I'm doing. What I'm calling the collecting diaries, as you've already seen from the intro. And pretty much what this is going to be, it's going to be a lot less format and a lot more, I guess a lot more, variety, a lot more discussion. Pretty much what my goal is to treat this like I would a diary or a journal or a vlog, a blog, whatever you want to call it, where instead of like, here's one video on one topic, I more so want to create smaller bits throughout the week or even 2 weeks, depending on what's going on in my life at that time. And kind of make individual videos with timestamps and doing the whole thing just a lot more fun, a lot more loose. I'm able to watch something and kind of immediately set this up and shoot something and get my thoughts out, as opposed to waiting however long and doing notes and feeling scatterbrained and feeling like I just have to fill in time. I always feel like if I do a single subject video, I have to kind of like fill in time, which is what I don't want to do. I want to discuss movies, discuss my love for movies, talk to you who's watching about movies and what I'm doing and all that stuff. Like that's what I live for. But I also too, like, over on my Instagram, I really want to bring a certain cinematic level to it. So I'm going to be playing around a lot more with some creative stuff here, doing some new things and really pushing myself in that way. I'm doing this to be less stressed, and that sounds more stressful. I'm going to push myself. That sounds like even more expectation and stuff, but it's not, because it's in a zone that I'm comfortable with. And this could be another one of those things that I do, and it just kind of, it fades off because I'm not happy with it, and you never really know until you try it, until you do it. And I know I don't have to come on here and explain myself and say like, hey, here's why I'm taking breaks from YouTube. But when I started this, the support I got was unreal, and the love I got was unreal, and I can't just forget that and disappear and not feel the need to be like, hey, I'm struggling, and this is my attempt to struggle less and to do a better job. So if you're seeing this is Sunday, right? Sunday? What's today? Yeah, I think today is Sunday. I think. I have some movies to watch. I know there's some packages coming in this week. That's going to be episode 2 You know, some stuff we'll kind of see. The whole point of this is to be a little less formatted, a little more run and gun, and have a lot more fun. I know that rhymes, but yeah, that's basically the point. So thank you so much for hanging around. Thank you for still being a part of this, and yeah, let's talk about some movies. So one of the things that I said I want to do with this series per se is discuss movies, right? That's what we do. We collect movies and we talk about them. And I do think we, as people on YouTube or people on Instagram and stuff, I think we've kind of lost our way with that. A lot of people show off what they buy, which I've done. That's fine. A lot of people do reviews, which is cool. I follow a lot of cool review people on here. I do think that the review section is a lot less interesting than more of just discussion format. I think that, well, obviously movies are, everybody's allowed to have their opinion and stuff. I do think there's a lot of very unthoughtful reviews out there. People who don't do any research, and then they bash a movie that they watched. They just do things that I feel like are unfair, right? And I get that movies doesn't matter the genre and stuff. You can just sit down and you can form your opinion on it. But a lot of people that are dilly-dallying around in topics for views, for counts that they don't really know, and then people are kind of creating these like wicked opinions just because it's like, oh, this one guy thinks this movie's great, or this one guy thinks this movie's bad. So the review culture, for my friends, you know who you are. I absolutely love what you do, and I always stick with you. I don't always agree with you, but I'll watch. I enjoy your opinion. I enjoy your take. I appreciate your opinion, and I will support to the very end. And if you're not bringing a sense of authenticity to it, I'm not really interested. So, and if I'm not really interested, you're probably not watching this, and that's fine. But movie discussion is one of the things that I want to do more. And this table, outside of unboxings and stuff, I really want to kind of make like a discussion table. This is the format where we're going to talk about movies. And, I don't know everything about movies. I'm far from it. I know very little, actually, most of the time. I do research. I don't do insane deep dives like other people do, but that's not what I want to do here. I just want to talk about movies with people who love to talk about movies. So today, since I decided to start this on a Sunday, and it's still Sunday, I haven't gotten any packages in. I haven't gone anywhere. I haven't done anything fun, really. I've just been watching movies. So we're going to talk about a surprise franchise that I decided this past week to kind of watch from beginning to end for the first time. And franchise is loose. These are all loosely connected. But what I'm talking about is the Scanners franchise. And I know that's out of focus right now. But this is super interesting. I was recently reading the In Search of Darkness coffee table book that team at Creator VC put out. And it goes year by year, much like the format of the documentary does. It goes year by year. And it covers pretty significant titles and kind of like some of their struggles. And when I was reading the 1981 chapter, Scanners was a part of it. And one of the things that they spoke about in there that I didn't really know was the rush job and the struggle behind the production of Scanners. To me, watching Cronenberg, I see a guy who is very, very controlled, very calm, very detail-oriented. And that might be the case for later on in his career. But at this point, finishing up The Brood, going into Scanners was a very rushed production. Like, he was writing pages of the script as they were going along. Sets weren't built in time for him to shoot them. It was very rushed, very chaotic. And that was really, really surprising for me to hear. So when I read that, I was like, I want to revisit that and kind of see if now knowing that knowledge, if I can kind of see that and just check it out. So I threw on my Criterion release of Scanners, which is the Blu-ray, not the 4K. I'm not sold on those Criterion 4K upgrades yet. They remaster the movie and then they don't give you anything new. They're just like, hey, here's the 4K disc and the same packaging and the same material, the same bonus features. So I think this movie looks great on Blu-ray anyway. But I threw in my Criterion copy here, and I love Scanners, and I didn't really like see anything that made me think like, oh yeah, I can really see now maybe some story gaps or some things. I noticed a couple funny little things that are more detail oriented or probably directly associated with what was going on with the rush job. After the head explosion scene, there's a wide shot of everybody in the room clearing out, and there's no blood or anything on the table where somebody's head just exploded all over the place. That was a little shocking to see. I was like, look, there's nothing back there. And the table's white, so it's very apparent. They didn't even just like throw some red down. There's just nothing there. And then there was a minor shot later on in the movie after the gas station explosion, when they're running away from the melting phone, where this is after the explosion. There's just nothing on fire. The truck is still back there. Nothing is burning. It's, so outside of those silly little things, which they're nothing. That's whatever. That does not take away anything from the movie. But it was a lot of fun revisiting this movie after so long. It's probably been 10 years or so for me since I've seen it. One of the major thoughts that I had going in, which, first of all, can we just appreciate this cover art there? I know this release has been out for a long time, but this presentation is awesome. One of the things that I noticed, which everybody knows, the head explosion. Everybody knows. There's probably people, I would bet there's more people than none who have seen the head explosion and have no idea what it's from. I've actually seen people share the head explosion scene as real news, that somebody falsely said, like, oh man, look what happened to this reporter's head during a news broadcast, and people are like, oh my god, that whole thing. So, but we all know famously that was done with it was obviously a dummy head full of all kinds of goop and stuff, and then there was a shotgun, a literal shotgun on the back of the assembly, which blew the head open. And it's one of the most, I would probably say, most iconic head explosions in movie history. I think the only one that comes to mind is Dawn of the Dead, and that's like a split second. Kick open a door, boom, the head explodes, you're done. The head explosion in Scanners is just so extremely iconic and gross, and it's pretty crazy watching this movie just how well that holds up. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because when I finished Scanners, I threw in my Scream Factory release of Scanners 2 and Scanners 3, which was my first time I'd ever seen either of these before. And my expectations weren't high. Like, I never once thought, like, man, I think they can direct-to-video follow-up Scanners and do a really good job. Never thought that, but I went in with an open mind. I was like, yeah, cool, we're going to watch Scanners too. And I ended up actually having enough fun with Scanners 2. I had no fun with Scanners 3, but Scanners 2 was, a follow-up that I was like, nah, okay, that's fine. Like, I don't really, it's only been 24 hours since I've watched it, and I don't remember too much of it, and I wasn't on my phone or anything, it was just watching. But what got me thinking about this was because in all the entries, there are 4 sequels to Scanners, 2 are spin-offs. 2 are direct sequels. Every single one features a head explosion, and none of them are to the caliber of the original, which was made, I mean, these 4 follow-up films were made 10 years after the first one. Scanners 2 was made 10 years, 9 years, 10 years after the original, technology was much better. You would think that makeup effects went a long way in the 10 years, especially coming from like the beginning of the heyday of practical effects to then. But then even with the films we're going to talk about, Scanner Cop 1 and 2, you have John Carl Buechler, a legend in the makeup effects industry, who still couldn't get to that caliber of head explosions. But anyway, that was just funny to me because Scanners 2 and Scanners 3 both feature head explosions that were not memorable. Neither of these films were really memorable either. Scanners 2, if I remember correctly, actually both of them were directed by the same people. I like the idea of the order being created. We have, scanners that are going to kind of be the new I guess you could say, like, it's a new advancement in crime fighting, and this police chief is going to get all of the attention for it. And it is what it is. It's an interesting idea, but it doesn't really play out well. So 2 and 3 I was not a fan of, but that brings me here to Scanner Cop and Scanner Cop 2. And here in my hands I have this is the Vinegar Syndrome 4K release of both of these. So you slide this out and you have 2 cases inside of here. Beautiful box there. So Scanner Cop. I had so much fun with this, so much more than I possibly could have imagined. It's really interesting too because this is the 90s. I believe it's 94, 93. Like I said, you have John Carl Buechler doing the visual effect, the makeup effects for this. This movie was directed by oh my god, what was his name? Pierre David. He was the producer and the director as well. And what we have here is a little bit of a police procedural. We have these people who randomly begin attacking cops. And these are not just like, oh, hey, some guy on the street just attacked cops. These are people who are around cops all the time. It's the janitor. It's these people who are associated who randomly begin attacking cops. And we find out that they're being kind of brainwashed into association between what they fear and cops. And we have Stasiak, who is the son of a scanner himself, who was adopted by a police officer that was involved at a tragic event that happened when he was younger, who has been on the imepronol, which is the tapering of the scanner effects drug. He's just graduated from the police force, and now he's being asked to assist in this cop killer thing that's going on. Like, these tons of cops are getting killed. I mean, cops are killed in here by like the dozens. And he's forced to get off the drugs to find who's doing this. And that's why this heads into the spin-off territory. They're basically taking the concept of scanners and trying to figure out exactly how they can where they can put it into different genres and stuff like that. And it works. Scanner Cop is a ton of fun. If you don't associate it to the original Scanners at all, and you just think like, what an interesting idea. This is a cop who wants to do a good job. He wants to grow. He's out for justice, who has to unlock these abilities that he's had previously, to solve the case. And it really comes out to be that way. And of course, events happen that end up getting very personal to him. And the longer that he's off the drug, the more he kind of loses control of these powers and stuff. And it makes for a really, really, really fun movie. You're not getting a ton of scanner violence per se. You're not getting the body horror to the level that you might think. This is much more police procedural, but it was a ton of fun. It flies by. It's 94 minutes long. I love Daniel Quinn, who plays the main character in here. The villain Glock. He is played by Richard Lynch, Mad Scientist. Just makes for a ton of fun. There's a really interesting, like some interesting concepts too brought up here. There's a moment, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the 1994 smash hit Scanner Cop. There's a moment here where he scans Xena, who is working with Glock, and she is she has the ability to tell future and all that stuff. She does all that mind stuff, and she sort of brings Stasiak into like his own personal hell and threatens to take his form, basically take his body, so he'll be trapped in this realm. And that's the only time that it's really explored. But it was such an interesting concept that I think that had this franchise continued, or if it was to continue today, was super, super interesting. So that was Scanner Cop. And then just this morning I watched Scanner Cop 2, The Showdown. And I didn't have as much fun with this one. There's a face on the slipcover, so it's focusing on that. I didn't have as much fun with Scanner Cop 2 as I did with Scanner Cop, but one of the main reasons I want to talk about this is there are some gnarly makeup effects in this movie. Like, really, really gnarly. John Carl Buechler returns for this one, so he's doing the makeup effects. David Pierre is not directing. This time it was... oh my gosh, what is his name? I had it in my head, and I completely just, like, blanked on it. David Pierre did produce it, though. There was a new director on board. It tells the story of Vulcan, who is a scanner, pretty much seeking revenge on Stasiak from the first movie. It's been years since the events of the first movie. He's a detective now, exacting revenge. But it brings a lot of pretty interesting concepts to the front of everything. Pretty much what he's doing is running around and sucking the life force out of other scanners. And when he does that, he's becoming stronger. You know what I mean? And the people that he does this to fade away, pretty much. They get burnt. It's almost like they were lit on fire. Just their life is sucked out of them, and they're left as these pretty disgusting, like, pretty much like burn victims. One of them, and what I think is the nastiest effect of the whole entire franchise, gets the life force sucked out of them up against they have like this front screen door, except the screen is metal, like doors would have in the cities. She gets stuck to that, and when her husband finds her, he kind of like tries to pull her off the gate, and all of her flesh sticks to the door, and the rest of her falls out. It's a really, really gross effect. I mean, astonishingly gross effect. That's so well done every single time. And he does this soul sucking thing, like 4 or 5 times throughout the movie. And that's kind of like the problem. You have Stasiak kind of investigating and trying to figure out what's going on. You have some side characters also trying to figure out what's going on, including Robert Forrester. And then you just have Vulcan running around, sucking the life force out of everybody. And that's sort of it for like 80 minutes of the runtime until you get to the end, where there's their final showdown. And the showdown is super interesting because Stasiak does something called like illusions, and it's where he makes Vulcan see him, and Vulcan begins to kill him in some really nasty ways. One including what's actually on the front cover here, where somebody's face splits open, and then once the victim is dead, it's not him. He just keeps tricking him over and over again. And that leads to, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the 1994? Hey, smash hit, Scanner Cop 2. It leads to another unloving or unremarkable head explosion. So, this franchise is super interesting, and one of the things that I kind of get caught up in thinking, Cronenberg stuff doesn't really get a chance to turn into like franchises. You have his remake of The Fly, which did get a sequel. You have The Fly 2. But offhand, and I could be wrong, please correct me if I am wrong, none of his other material ever got a follow-up, or let alone a sequel, let alone 4 of them. 2 of them, which could be considered just a spin-off. So, super interesting there about this franchise. Yeah, it's... I don't know why I got sucked into the world of scanners this past week, but I did. And it was a lot of fun. Let me know your thoughts down below on the Scanners franchise. Especially Scanner Cup 1 and 2. I bought these Vinegar Syndrome Blu-rays during the halfway to Black Friday sale. Or I think it was the Black Friday sale years ago. And I just never watched them. I was like, yeah, one day I'm going to sit down and watch the whole entire thing. But I ended up not, for whatever reason. And now my ranking of the franchise, it would be Scanners, and then both Scanner Cops and Scanners 2 and 3. Wasn't a big fan of 3, The Takeover. Wasn't the biggest fan of 2, but it was fine. And then I would probably go Scanner Cop being my second favorite, and then the original Scanner Cop 2, kind of mixed with Scanners 2, The New Order for me. But just a super interesting franchise about exploding heads and psyche and stuff, and Cronenberg doing his Cronenberg thing. And yeah, ton of fun there. Those are my thoughts on Scanners. You are probably like, are we still talking about this shit? Yeah, we are. And just to round out episode 1, I wanted to show off something new. Kind of talk about something new and exciting. Because I haven't seen a lot of people talking about this. And maybe it's just the crowd that I follow. But this is such a great release. And it's the first from this line in my collection. I want to talk about real quick Lars von Trier's The Kingdom trilogy. This was put out by Mubi. This is the Blu-ray. Big old thick box set here. I consider myself a big fan of Lars von Trier. Big fan of what he did with Nymphomaniac Volume 1 and 2, Antichrist with Willem Dafoe, The House That Jack Built. I mean, just like he makes, and those are probably three of his most well known. I know, but he's one of those guys who I think some people don't like because they feel like he really pushes that limit just for the sake of pushing the limit, not bringing much value to it. To me, I think cinema and movies are about really pushing it, telling stories your way, and it doesn't really like, you can be as graphic as you want. It doesn't mean it's always right, but Nymphomaniac has adult entertainment level scenes in it and all kinds of stuff. And I think that his movies, whether or not you love them or you hate them, I think they definitely leave an impact in some way. So when I saw that this got announced, I knew nothing about it. I still really know nothing about it. I haven't watched it yet, but I figured I would show it off. This box set here. So we have, I think this was a TV series. We had the first one. We had technically what I think is the first season, the second season, and then years later. Let's see. Was it years later? Sometime later, a third season came out called Exodus. So super interesting. Let's see what's going on in the back here. So this is a cult classic series. It tells the story of a hospital built on top of the old bleaching ponds in Copenhagen, where evil has taken root and medical science faces a daily struggle with itself. Where the Swedes curse the Danes and a mysterious and inexplicable blend come together in a mixture of horror and humor. So this features the original series, The Kingdom 1 and 2, in a restored, never-before-seen versions, as well as the long-awaited follow-up, The Kingdom Exodus. So yes, a third season. This comes in this box set. Let me show this off. So there's the front of it there. There's the back with all of your info on there. And then this slides out like this. We'll put that to the side. This is the front of the fold out. Whoa. Whoa. And then there's the back of the fold out. And then we put these to the side just for now because there's some stuff in there. And then this opens up. And it's going to be impossible for me to show off. It just opens up huge. And in here we have the Kingdom 1. That's on 2 discs. We have the Kingdom 2 on... I have to put this down. 2 discs. And then we have the Exodus on 2 discs. And then an extras disc. So it looks like it's all labeled as just episode 1 through 12. Or I'm sorry, 13. And then we have an extras disc. So it's broken up like that. And then this just folds up like this, like your typical TV series, and collapses. And then what fell out onto my desk is a couple different things. So we have some cards here. I'll show, guess I'll show these off. There we have Alexander Skarsgård. Lars von Trier is a long time friend of the Skarsgårds. I actually remember watching Breaking the Waves for the first time, seeing Stellan Skarsgård in there in all of his glory. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So, I'm sorry. I think I called these art cards. These are just stills from the show. So there's another one there. And then we have a little booklet. We have a companion. And this is what that looks like there. If we open this up, we have, let's see. We have, okay, a full breakdown of, this is actually his full filmography. Cool. We have a director's statement, restoration notes. So the original series was shot on 16mm. All the material was bleach bypassed during the development. This was done in order to give the material a grainy look that's known as the Kingdom look. Mubi had all the access to the 16mm raw rolls. We did an arsecon of all the original materials with rehandles. Then we re-edited the whole series. This was apparently 100% restored. Every single frame, almost all the VFX plates and backgrounds. They had all of the original material to redo the show pretty much from the ground up. So incredible effort put in here. I haven't seen, what it looks like yet, but it makes me really excited to check it out. We have some stills in here, and then we just have a synopsis of episodes. So there's your credits for 1 and 2, and then I think we get into Exodus. So really cool little reading bit in here. We have an interview with Lars von Trier. Interview continued. So a lot of really cool stuff going on in here. This is I don't collect a lot of TV shows. We have a couple of them, some of our favorites, more Erica than me, but what a treatment. What a treatment to give a show. An absolutely beautiful release from Mubi, Lars von Trier of the Kingdom trilogy. And my dog is currently trying to break his way into the room, so that's going to be the end of episode 1. I'll see you guys next week for episode 2. I hope you enjoy the collecting diaries. Please let me know what you think below. And I'll see you later.